Hello, my name is Zam and welcome back to my channel. Right then, so I'm jumping in once again for a new intro. This might be a reoccurring thing. It does give me a chance to kind of update if I do need to, talk about something. So yeah, I'm about to record episode 6. Thought I'll record a new intro for episode 5, right, before I put it up on YouTube. So essentially there's two parts to this discussion. I mean, the first part was quite long, but I still felt that it wasn't as comprehensive as it could have been. And, there's still things that I needed to talk about. And I felt like I was kind of limiting myself. I mean, I did limit myself. I tried a new approach. I tried to time or, try to have it into a certain time, the length of it, that is. But, that was a silly approach, and that's like a one and done. I felt like there was still so much more I needed to talk about and things I needed to bring in. And I felt like they had to be part of this. So I recorded a second part, and you'll see it go into a part 2 at one point. So just thought I should bring that up. And if you are interested in early access to the next episode right now, or maybe even full length to this episode, consider checking out the Patreon page. Consider checking out the different listings there. Maybe something might catch your eye. And in doing so, you'll be supporting the channel. Again, just an option. It's just optional for anyone who might be interested. And also, consider checking out the plans. I have a lot of anime. It's an extensive list, and it's all handpicked. I only put stuff I'm really interested in on there. So yeah, check out the list. I plan on getting to a handful of those in 2021. And consider checking out the pinned comment. It does have the link to the Patreon page, and it does have links to social media. And if I need to make an update, I usually update the pinned comment right at the top of the comment section. Cannot be missed. Right then, that's about it. So let's get right into it. I hope you enjoy this one.
あのおじさんはきっと誰かにさばいて欲しかったんじゃないかな。いや、4年ぶりだな、ライナ。
Oh, that music! Underground Chapel? Oh my god.
Eren.
Ooh, my whole clan knows how brave you are.
健闘を祈りますよ。
痛み入ります、清美様。
Kiyomi?
座れよ、ライナ。この上の建物は普通の
Oh my god.
ステージの裏側だが、多くの住民が幕が上がるのを楽しみにしてた。ここのすぐ上でな。
Oh.
クルーガさん、手を怪我しているんですか？ああ、擦り傷だ。
Just a scratch, eh?
ライナー、座れよ。
Yeah. Reiner, sit down.
いや、ファルコ。お前もここで話を聞くんだ。
Whoa.
ファルコ、言う通りにするんだ。
Yeah. Reiner gets it.
さて、行きましょうか。
Oh, she knows. She knows.
あら、お久しぶりです、レオンハートさん。
ブラウンさん、あんたの息子。
Annie's dad?
そういや、寝たきりだったフーバーさん、行っちまったんだって。
Oh.
ええ、息子がすべてをマーレに捧げたこと
Damn,
と。
Bertolt's dad, huh?
すごい、カルビー元帥まで来てるよ。マーレ軍の中枢が
The whole backbone. Everyone's here.
名家の数々。
Families, ambassadors.
マーレの戦士よ、マガト隊長がお呼びだ。
Look at this. Look at the staging.
お前と同じだよ。
Oh, Reiner, come on.
お前と
Oh
同
my
じだ
god.
よ。仕方なかったってやつだ。
Reiner instantly knows what that means, doesn't he?
あれが壁を破壊した理由だろ。お前たちは世界を救おうとした。そうなんだろ。
イエーガーはそのまま正門に行け。
は
ーい。
二人はこっち。
Oh, look at that. They separated Zeke from. Who is this?
あなたをどこかで見たことがある気がする。それは残念。素敵な顎ひげだと思ったのに。
Oh, I think she just noticed it's a fake beard.
パンツァー隊。こんな日までお勤めご苦労。
そんなピークさんこそ
行くぞ。
どうした？
いや
That voice, I've never heard that before.
進撃の巨人と運命を共にする彼らと
Ah, okay, so the Panzer unit.
今その絆に亀裂入ってないか？
The look on his face.
マガト隊長はどこに？
So this is someone new. It's a female.
古いって何年前の4年以前なら
Oh my god, Falco, he's quick. He's putting it together.
そんなわけが
巨人大戦を終わらせたのはヘイロスでもタイバー家でもありませんでした。あの戦争を終結させ世界を救ったのは
King
フリッツ
Fritz.
王なのです。
Oh, beautiful shot.
始祖の巨人を継承すると同時にタイバー家と画策し一人のマーレ人を英雄と称し活躍
The
させま
statue
し
is
た。
hollow.
王家の命や始祖の巨人を奪おうとするならそれを受け入れる。それほどまでにエルディア人の犯した罪は重く
They brought this up in season 3, part 2, right?
ただしいずれ報復を受けるまでの間壁の中の世界に争いのない束の間の楽園を享受したい。どうかそれだけは許してほしい。
God.
王は最後にそう言い残しました。我々タイバー家は一族の安泰を条件にカール・フリッツと手を組みマーレにエルディアを撃った。タイバー家とはありもしない
Look at this, he's owning up to it.
卑しいこそ泥に過ぎない。
隊長、戦士たちが呼びに向かった兵士
Oh my god.
予備隊を動員し捜索しろ。了解。始まったか。
Ah, he knew it. See, he knows.
古典的だけどこの
Right.
操作じゃ巨大化でき
Now
ない。
that's someone new.
ましてや二人じゃ
It's clear they had a fake beard
早
on.
く足だ。
She even,
あのノッポの兵士何が目的だ？
I think she told that the guy she hugged.
でもあの兵士どこかで
そこで見ててくれ。これが俺のけじめだ。
What?
およそ幾千万もの超大
Tens
型
of
巨
millions.
人で作られており、盾と矛として平和を守ってきました。世界に再び危機が迫っています。平和への反逆者、その名はエレン・イエーガー。
尊敬してたのに
Look at Reiner. He's just.
話してた。
悪いな、ファルコ。お前には助けられた。
あの手紙俺に届けさせた。
Yeah.
あの手紙は
家族宛ての手紙じゃなかったが仲間には届いた。
Oh my god. Oh, Falco.
仲間だと。
Oh yeah.
パラディ島の脅威とはこの超大型巨人軍による
A
襲撃
rumbling.
地ならしです。始祖の巨人を身に宿すエレン・イエーガーは地ならしを発動させる可能性を秘めています。
That part is not entirely true because he needs.
週末の
Whoa, look at this imagery.
逃げ惑うのみ。あらゆる都市や文明は踏み潰され、文字通り全ては平らな地表と
Season 2 end credits, right?
ビリー・タイバーの言う通り、俺は悪者だ。
And this music's from.
世界を滅ぼしてしまうかもしれない。だが俺にもお前たちが悪者に見えた。あの日、壁が破られ、
Right. Episode 1.
俺の
That
心
day.
は巨人に蹂躙され、
Same music.
目の前で母親が食われた。
壁を破壊したからだ。
その任務とは、
始祖を奪還し世界を救うことだ。
そうか。世界を救うためだったら、
Right.
それは仕方ないよな。
They established a few episodes ago. He understands.
お前らができるだけ苦しんで死ぬように努力するって、そのために来たんだろう。
ああ、言ったっけ。
Whoa.
忘
Reiner's like,
そして今
hmm,
渡って敵と同じ屋根の下で
right.
敵と同じ飯を食った。ライナー、お前と同じだよ。もちろんムカつくやつもいるし、いいやつもいる。
Good
海
people
の外も
turns to Falco.
壁の中も
Oh.
同じなんだ。だがお前たちは壁の中にいる奴らは悪魔だと教えられた。まだ何も知らない子供がそう叩き込まれた。
Yeah, he understands.
一体何ができたよ。
He's empathetic.
だったお前に。
Wow, look at this.
お前。
違うんだエレン。俺はあの日マルセルが食われて兄とベルトルトは作戦を中止して引き返そうとしたのに、俺は二人を無理やり説得して作戦を続行させたんだ。俺は英雄になりたかった。
13 years to become a hero.
俺が悪いんだよ。お前の母親が巨人に食われたのは俺のせいだ。
Punish me, right?
もう嫌だった。自分が俺を殺してくれ。ですが、私は死に
Oh.
たくありません。
He knows what's about to happen. The commander knows as well.
生まれてきてしまったからです。我々は国も人種も異なる者同士です。
Eren's expression there, though, his
一
eyes.
緒に未来を生きてほしい。皆で力を合わせればどんな困難も乗り越えていけるはずです。
That smile.
お前と同じだ。
It's almost as if
私と共に力を合わせてパラディ島の悪魔と戦ってほしい。
俺は進み続ける。敵を駆逐するまで。
oh my god, Reiner has to transform.
パラディ島勢力へ宣戦布告を。
This music, though. Oh, he's dead? Lord Tybur. He was meant to be bait. He knew this. That was a plan, right? Wow. Whoa. Man, I mean, I had no idea I'm about to get this type of episode. This is... Whoa. Anyone can be a god or anyone can be a devil. All it takes is for them to believe it, or for people to believe it. Eren Kruger said that, right? In season 3. And, you know, on that note, Lord Tybur certainly succeeded, right, in establishing this new devil, right? This rebel against peace, Eren Yeager. The focus is firmly on him now. And right on cue, Eren Yeager, the Attack Titan, showed himself, right? Came out and presented himself as this rebel to the peace, as this devil, the devil of Paradis. Now, it appears that Lord Tybur is dead. I mean, I feel like I could say that for sure, you know, given the imagery I'm seeing on screen. He came out, yeah, he transformed, and then he smashed him, right? He smashed the entire stage and smashed Lord Tybur into the ground. And then the final shot is of him tossing Lord Tybur up, and then presumably he's going to consume him, right? Because at this point in time, he does have reason to believe, or this is his best bet, that, you know, Lord Tybur, the head of the Tybur family, might be the Warhammer Titan himself. Now, of course, that's a missing piece of intel, right? They don't know for sure who the Warhammer Titan is. So he has to take this approach. He has to go after Lord Tybur, who's on stage. Now, again, you know, going back to the point I made, I don't think Lord Tybur is the Warhammer Titan himself. I think you can see it here because, as I said, it looks like he's pretty dead. He got smashed, and, like, you know, that still frame of him, you know, eyes are closed, his legs broken. He's about to get consumed. But come on, there's no chance the Warhammer Titan's dead just like that, right? And he's about to be consumed, and Eren's just going to take over the Warhammer Titan that easily? No, 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 no. And it was so clear that this is all by design, that both the commander and Lord Tybur knew about this. They know, right? They took the risk. He's out there as bait. Now, being out there as bait and knowing that there's a really good chance you're about to die out there, and he was ready for it. That's the thing. He knew this is going to happen. This is the whole point of it, right? So, knowing that he's most likely going to die, there's no chance he's going to take a risk that big, being the Warhammer Titan and, dying right then and there. I'll get into, the Warhammer Titan in a bit. There's so much to talk about. Hopefully I can get to all the topics. But yeah, getting back on point. Now then, it actually felt like he was holding off until the official declaration of war by Lord Tybur, right? Almost felt like a calculated move to do it after he announces, right? Or establishes Paradis as the new enemy, and establishes Eren Yeager as this rebel to peace, and the enemy everyone should be focused on. He transformed at that moment after he heard Lord Tybur pass out that declaration, right? Now, I feel like it was clear he's going to do this, right? Or this conscious desire, at least, was established back in episode 3, that conversation he's having with Falco, right? That scene alone kind of did more than enough to depict his current state and, his current disposition, and that he plans on going through with whatever this plan of action is. And, now it's clear it was this, but it was clear back then that he has a plan of action and he plans on sticking to it, right? So it was clear that he's going to do this tonight. But, this is the moment he chooses to transform and attack and, kill Lord Tybur, most likely. Now, once it's official, he has no choice but to fight, right? He's I feel like even though he planned on doing it, he was still not holding out hope. I don't want to say that, but he was still he wanted it to play out to its conclusion, right? But, that being said, there is something quite interesting that happens here. I see something quite rare. I see Eren show or depict some sort of emotion for the first time in a long time. And not only this season 4, going all the way back to the season 3 finale, right? Other Side of the Sea, or The Walls, I believe it was titled. Since then, he's just been this, stoic presence, right? He seems, depressed. He seems disconnected, right? Lost in his thoughts. So for the first time in a long time, you see some sort of emotion again, emoted. And it's a quick moment, right? His eyes, they kind of light up almost, right? It's subtle, but it's noticeable for sure. And this happens because Lord Tybur ends up saying something that actually, it's something that resonates with Eren, and it actually goes back a long time, in terms of establishing his desire and his drive and his motivations, right? This concept of, I don't wish to die because I was born in this world. Now Lord Tybur said that, right? And that instantly caught Eren by surprise, to hear this. And this goes back to season 1, right? The struggle for trust arc. This is around the time Eren is still kind of new to, the Titan transformation and the Titan shifter aspect of it all, and he's kind of lost, and he's in this limbo state, right? And Armin kind of has to get him going again. And that was the first time Eren himself proclaims this, right? And it kind of really drives him on. And then, of course, in one of the best episodes of the series and one of the best episodes of season 3, Bystander, right? His mother said that about him to Keith Shardis, or Shardis. So yeah, that is something that resonated. So I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sure about this, but it kind of felt like maybe he thought for a split second there might be, this isn't part of the plans. Maybe there's something else to this. Maybe there is some semblance of hope right? Maybe there is another path that can be taken here, you know. But of course, that only lasts for a split moment as Lord Tybur continues to push on, right? And declares, you know, Paradis the big enemy, or declares Eren Yeager as the big, you know, rebel to the peace, this enemy of the world. And then, of course, there's that smile. Oh man, that smile. Wow. You know, that smile was kind of like a reluctant, just as I thought, right? And again, you know, this final "I'm the same as you" kind of accompanies this scene perfectly, right? Or concludes that scene perfectly, because he does begin that scene or that line of dialogue by saying, "Just as I thought," right? So at that point in time, he's realized, yes, you know, this plan does have to go through. Now, again, I don't know if, you know, anything would have changed. I do feel like he was ready to go through with this plan from the beginning, but that did catch him off guard, for sure. It surprised him. But, you know, that was established really early on, right? The ticking time bomb, the cut on his hands. And again, like I said, you know, his motives, his current state of mind, his plan of action, perhaps, or, you know, the path he has to take was quite clear that he's ready to go through with this. This is clear in episode 3, I believe. And, you know, in that conversation he's having with Falco. But yeah, you know, also the cut is used to kind of get Reiner to comply, right? He certainly has to comply because Eren has made it clear. I mean, in the end, you know, it didn't matter because Eren ended up going through with the plan regardless, right? And he did end up killing a lot of people, a lot of Eldians, actually. You know, more on that later. Death and destruction. Yeah, more on that later. But, you know, let's stick on this for now. But how insane is this? Eren Yeager, the holder of the Founding Titan, the Attack Titan himself, right? This newly established enemy of the world is right here in Marley, and he just took out someone as important and respected as Lord Tybur, right? The elusive Attack Titan, right? Because apparently the Attack Titan is the one that always kind of eluded the Marley Nation, right? So yeah, this is just insane that, you know, right now I'm thinking of the whole series, right? Season 1, and then how things played out in season 3 part 2, even season 3 part 1, everything, you know. Now look at this. Not too long ago, I didn't even know about Marley, right? Now look at this. Eren Yeager, the Attack Titan, is in Marley, and he has just killed Lord Tybur, right? And it's going according to plan, right? The commander in Lord Tybur's plan. He jumped right in on cue, right? He took out Lord Tybur, and the whole world has seen it now. He just established Eren Yeager as this rebel to the peace, right? This devil of Paradis, the real threat to humanity. And here you have him jump right in, right? It was perfect, right? Yes, Lord Tybur had to die, but the thing is, he was ready for that, right? He knew this. He knew he's bait, right? He's putting himself out there as bait. And the commander knew this. But yeah, you know, Eren, the thing is, he's not afraid to take up that role, right? That role of the enemy, the devil of Paradis, the rebel to the peace. You could tell he's not afraid to just, you know, take on that role, because he knows, you know, he cannot deviate from this path. He has to go through with this. Now, of course, the score that kicked in was the same one from the Beast Titan and Levi encounter, right? You know, Heicho just chops him up. It's quite a memorable piece of music. You know, as I was hearing that, I just had this, you know, immediate memory of Zeke yelling as he, you know, rips out of the Beast Titan. I'll never forget that moment. I mean, I had no idea that I'm about to get this type of episode. It's a monumental episode, right? It's a big episode. One of the most important episodes of the series, to be honest. You know, it's the type of episode that has a before this episode and an after this episode, right? The last time I had an episode similar to this, or a similar nature to this type of episode, was that day. That completely changed so many things of the story forever, right? So many things. and change the trajectory of the story from that point on. This did the same thing, or did a similar thing, right? There's always going to be before the declaration of war and after the declaration of war, right? This is insane, you know, because it has certainly changed the trajectory of the story once again. And it's quite clear the direction it's heading into now. Paradis has been established as the enemy of the world, right? Alongside this rebel to the peace, this devil himself, Eren Yeager, right? So yeah, wow. And you know, staying on that point, it is one of the best episodes of the series, that's for sure. You know, I'm not sure how I rank it in an all-time list, you know, probably even top 10, to be honest. It is. It's just, I feel like this is such a major moment of the story. One of the things, you know, like I said in one of my discussions, I really do hope to go back to the beginning of the series at some point, you know, and get a chance to go through all those episodes again. Because again, you know, so many things have happened since then that have reestablished or recontextualized so many things, right? Things are never going to be the same if you go back to the series from the beginning. You know, moments and scenes are never going to be the same because they have a totally different meaning now. So, you know, one of the things I really do hope to do at some point this year is to go back to the beginning of the series, right? And go through every single episode once again. Maybe once season 4 is on break. Because as of this point, the only information that's out there and the information that's been shared with me is that, you know, the 16 episodes is perhaps only one part of it. You know, there's meant to be more after, but they don't know how to proceed just yet. So maybe if there's a break in the middle, or there is going to be a break in the middle, maybe in that time, you know, I can find some time to binge, maybe, you know, sneak in an episode every day type thing. And go through the series again. So it's certainly one of the best episodes, that's for sure. It was one of the most riveting, one of the most skillfully crafted and densely packed episodes of the series, you know, most impressive. You know, it really was brilliant in so many different aspects, right? Everything about it was brilliant. You know, the voice acting. How about the incredible voice acting here? You have characters like Eren, Reiner, and Lord Tybur in focus, right? So I thought the voice acting for all three of them was fantastic, you know, and specifically Reiner's voice acting. Wow, man. You really felt that anguish, that pain, that guilt, right? That fear. That was one of the best. You know, that was one of the best of the series. That performance of Reiner's voice acting in this episode, one of the best. One of the standout performances. You know, the editing, the pacing, the directing, everything was top notch. You know, it was one of the most visually stunning episodes of the series. There's some poignant imagery in here, right? There's some great use of juxtaposition here, right? Great use of callbacks and parallels, right? And in the 22 minutes or 23-minute time span, if you take out the intro and the outro, it effectively kind of tied up 3 seasons of this story, 3 seasons of this anime, right? That's why, you know, I keep saying that it's such a monumental episode. It's one of the most important episodes of the series. You really feel the nature of this episode, the grand nature of this episode. And again, you know, a lot of it was successful because of, you know, the effective use or the brilliant use of callbacks and parallels, you know, be it through musical cues, be it through some poignant imagery. And speaking of imagery, oh my god, you know, I'm gonna find some time and just go through this episode and just get all my favorite frames out of that. There's some stunning imagery in there, you know, and the theater production Lord Tybur put on, and, you know, the other actors who are now most likely dead, so, you know, collateral damage, more of that later. But yeah, you know, even the theater production was just fantastic, right? The imagery that's being depicted, and how they choose to depict all that imagery. There's some amazing shots in there, right? It really was some textbook tension building, wasn't it? You know, there was such a sense of anxiety throughout this episode. You know, the tension was building and building. And of course, you know, the music played such a major role in that. The incorporation of the music throughout these scenes, throughout the episode. And you know, in that sense, it actually even reminded me of The Light of the Seven from Game of Thrones, the season 6 finale, right? It had such a similar tone, didn't it? It had similar editing, similar tone, right? It's cutting back and forth between crucial scenes, right? And of course, you know, one of the standout moments of that is, you know, these concurrent conversations going on, right? One of them on stage, Lord Tybur to the rest of the world, right? And then down below in that basement, you have Reiner and Eren, right? And it's cutting back and forth, and it's also cutting back and forth, showing us some of these other things that are happening. You know, a lot of other pieces are being moved at the same time as well. It was also elaborate, yet so elegant in its presentation, right? So many moving pieces, all incorporated, all skillfully edited and crafted into this amazing moment. And of course, there's that element of the ticking time bomb, right? In both of them, in both scenes, in the Game of Thrones scene and in this scene, right? And it runs out by the end of it, that's for sure. Or it plays out to that, doesn't it? And I've known for some time now that Isayama-san is a big Game of Thrones fan himself, right? And it's entirely possible that he might have taken some inspiration from scenes like Light of the Seven, right? You know, in my discussion for the last episode, my thoughts on the cliffhanger and the possibility of this scene now, you know, Reiner coming up on Eren in the basement, you know, I stated that there is a possibility that this could be one of the most important scenes of the entire anime, of the entire story so far. These two getting to speak again. And, you know, I stated maybe even earlier than that, you know, Eren is perhaps the only person that Reiner can actually even speak to openly about his struggles. And, you know, before I even get into that scene, how about the opening of the episode? Perfectly set, right? It perfectly established the tone. In that sense, it also kind of took me back to the opening of that day. I know the scenes are totally different, right? You have young Annie, Reiner, and Bertolt brings up, you know, that he's having that dream over and over about this man who hung himself, right? And you can see that it affected him quite a bit. He's trying to figure out. And I think he did figure it out. That man, he wanted to be judged, right? He wanted to be judged for his actions. You know, he had such insurmountable guilt that he wanted to kind of get that out there, right? But yeah, you know, I do think Bertolt kind of nailed it. And how about that amazing transitional hinge as it goes from that scene to this scene, right? As he's speaking of someone who has incredible guilt. It goes into the shot of Eren sitting down and Reiner showing up, right? So yeah, in that sense, you know, Reiner can slot right into it as that man, right? Reiner has had this incredible amount of guilt, insurmountable guilt that he's been crushed under and that he cannot share with anyone here in Liberio, right? He has to keep to himself. He has to keep it locked in, so much so that it drove him to the decision to end it, right? To really end it. That was the only path he saw out at that point in time. And now he gets the chance to talk with Eren. He finally did get a chance to be open about those feelings, right? Yes, Eren kind of brought that out of him, but he was able to finally open up about those things, right? But the thing is, even though Reiner wanted to be judged for his actions, right? He wanted to take responsibility for his actions, and he wanted punishment for his actions. It turns out that Eren, you know, he has no idea, right? So this is the reason it was so important, because now Reiner also gets to see the change in Eren, right? And you can see how baffled he is by a lot of these things, you know. You see a similar reaction. He goes, huh? Twice, just like in that episode 3 flashback episode, right? At that point in time, he just didn't know the things Marcel's doing or the reason he's apologizing. He had a similar reaction, right? He couldn't quite register, right? And he's just like, huh? And the same thing happened here, right? Twice, based on things Eren's saying now. This is not the Eren he remembers, right? So yeah, even though he wanted all of those things, Eren has moved on from that, right? He established that he doesn't blame Reiner, right? Or he doesn't blame people like Annie and Bertolt, For us, the audience, has been established for some time now that Eren understands the struggles. Now, even though the tone is different, this scene of these two important figures coming together, talking face to face after all this time, it really reminded me of some of the great two-handers in films I've seen. In my mind, I was thinking of stuff like Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood, right? I was thinking of Mads Mikkelsen and Hugh Dancy in Hannibal, right? I was thinking of stuff like Heath Ledger and Christian Bale in The Dark Knight in that interrogation scene, right? I was thinking of Javier Bardem in that coin scene in No Country for Old Men. And I mentioned in the last episode, right? Egbert and Ragnar, right? And then also Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix in The Master. And it was clear to see that Eren really, really wanted this conversation to happen, right? This is important to him, to Eren, that is, to face Reiner, to have this conversation, to get his thoughts out to him, but also because Eren is perhaps the only person who truly understands Reiner's state at the moment, right? Reiner's struggle at the moment. I believe he even said, right, Reiner, that's been eating away at you, right? So he understands. And, like I said, Eren and Reiner, they're the same. They're connected forever. Their lives are intertwined forever. They're equals, right? And throughout the episode, there's the visual depiction of this, right? Them being equals. As Reiner comes into the basement, he sees Eren sitting down, and Eren asked him to sit down, right? Of course, he kind of flashes the loaded gun almost for Reiner to make sure he does sit down. But, they do sit down, and they are face to face as equals. And then later on, near the conclusion of the episode, once again, he lends out a hand, right? Extends a hand and helps him get to his feet again. Once again, face to face as equals. And speaking of this lending out a hand or extending a hand motif, that's been a running theme throughout the series, right? I've been mentioning episode 3 quite a bit, and yet again, there's another thing to go back to. That flashback to the training days. You see Reiner, he sees Eren on the floor and he sees him struggling. He sees himself in Eren compared to his own struggles as a young candidate in Marley. He extends a hand, he lends out a hand and gets him back to his feet, and he implores him to push on, right, to keep moving forward. And then, if you go back further in that big episode, season 2, episode 6, you see Eren kind of help Reiner, right? He lends a hand out to Reiner to help him back on top of the wall, right? That's a reoccurring theme, these two helping each other get back to their feet. I feel like Eren really allowed Reiner, perhaps, to clear his conscience, right? To really talk about these things and give him a chance to get these things out there, right? This insurmountable guilt he's been carrying since he's been back to Liberio. He can't speak with anyone else, that's for sure. So here's the chance, right? He gave him that chance. And he also gave Eren a chance to establish that he understands. He understands the struggle, right? He understands his struggle, Reiner's, that is, and everyone else here, the Eldians, right? And also, it was important for him to establish the reason the things that are about to happen are going to happen. And that wasn't just to Reiner, it was to Falco as well, right? He wanted Falco to hear about these things and know the reason this is about to happen. So yeah, I feel like this conversation was really important to Eren, for sure, for a few different reasons. I'm the same as you, right? This is one of the running themes of this conversation. And I loved how Eren kind of applies this to different situations and different motivations throughout the conversation, right? Because it perfectly mimics things from different, or it mimics the actions and motivations of Reiner from different parts of his life or at different moments in his life, right? it kicked it off by asking Eren, why'd you come? And he told him, same as you, right? And then he told him, I slept under the same roof as my enemy. I ate the same food as my enemy, same as you, Reiner. And that, he knows that there are good people here. Same as Reiner, right? Reiner found out, right? That was one of the talking points, or one of the major takeaways from his breakdown in season 2, episode 6, right? If only I didn't know people like this existed, right? Then I wouldn't have become this half-assed piece of shit. Eren wants to save and protect his family in Paradis, his world, perhaps, just like Reiner came over to save the world, right? They bring that up in this episode a few times. And then, of course, the final, just as I thought, I'm the same as you. And this is after Lord Tybur firmly establishes, officially declares Paradis as the enemy, right? This one, again, same as you. Essentially, he knows there's good people here. He's made connections with good people, in Falco specifically, who's also in the room. He knows all these things, right? Even though he initially considered them enemies, right? He even straight out told them, initially I considered the people on this side of the sea my enemies. Then he spent some time there, just like Reiner spent some time in Paradis, right? Even though he knows all these things, he has to move forward, right? He has to go through with the plan, just like Reiner had to, right? Right till the bitter end. And then face the consequences of his actions, right? In that sense, Eren also kind of reminded me of Bertolt from season 3, episode 15, Descent. Bertolt, he was so calm and composed, right? He had such a control over his emotions at that moment in time. He had a clear, head. He had a clear picture of the things that need to happen, right? He established that he knows there's good people inside the walls in Paradis, that he sympathizes with them. He even told Armin he considers them his precious comrades, right? Yet they still have to die, right? It might not be fair, but it still kind of needs to happen, right? The world is just that cruel, right? That was the whole point. And how about Falco being there? I think that's another key component of this conversation, or this scene. And Eren certainly wanted him to be there. He wanted him to hear these things. And Falco does get to find out about Eren having to watch his mother die at the same age as himself, right? And he gets to hear about the impact and the chaos foreign invaders caused, right? And, they've established that Falco is an empathetic young man, right? That he has an open mind. So, I could totally see Falco being conflicted after this. Now, I say that, but, I still don't know how things turn out for Falco and Reiner. Again, that being said, come on, it's Reiner and Falco. They've established Falco as a key component, clearly, through episode 1. And, of course, the ending. Every time the ending plays, Falco is right there, front and center. Surely they'll be protected somehow. They clearly can't kill him off, right? That's for sure. Maybe Reiner can transform in time to do something, perhaps similar to how Eren protected Armin and Mikasa, right? Something along those lines, hopefully. Now, assuming Falco lives through this, I can totally see him conflicted. I can totally see him being conflicted about all of this. In the aftermath of this, because again, they've established that he's a perceptive young man. He understands quite a bit for his age. And at one point in time, you see Eren even turn to Falco as he tells them about the Eldians on this side being the same as the Eldians on that side. It's the same on that side as well. There's good people. Yeah, sure, there's some jerks, but there's good people, just like here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for Falco, in the future of this story. Again, I just mentioned they established him as a major figure, perhaps, for the rest of the story. All you need to do is check out that ending. He's prominently featured there. At this point in the story, Eren is certainly not merely existing in a reactionary role. He has taken definitive action against the antagonistic force, right? Again, relative to him. And you know, again, going back to episode 3, that conversation he's having with Falco, I remember saying that this does not seem like a person who has doubts. You know, this seems like someone who is in control, knows the path that has to be taken. So in that sense, the character of Eren Yeager has a clear understanding that this path is key in achieving the plot goal, right? And in extension to that, the thing he wants, right? And again, you know, going back to something he said in episode 3, you know, it might be hope or it might be another hell, but I'm not going to find out but I have to keep moving forward to find out, right? And at this point, his choice has become more than a decision, right? It has become an action. His convictions are so strong that they are now forcing him to act in a manner that solidifies his new path, right? The old self is dead at this point in time. That's for sure. There's such a dramatic representation of the progress in his personal evolution, right? You know, the before and after mindsets are so clearly depicted here. You know, so much so that Reiner is actually, it's quite jarring for Reiner at points, you know. At one point, he even tries to throw all the blame on himself, right? So he can take the punishment in an attempt to perhaps, you know, stop Eren from doing what he plans on doing. He goes through with it by the end of the episode, right? By the end of that conversation. And he even tried to, you know, remind Eren about the promise he made all that time ago. The things he would do to them, right? But again, you know, it's a jarring sight or jarring thing for Reiner because Eren barely remembers that, right? So to hear this, to see this change in Eren, that's jarring for Reiner. And also, you know, the fact that he doesn't even remember that or barely remembers it, that's another thing that kind of tells Reiner that, oh, okay, so he's here for something else, right? So that kind of escalates it even further, you know, that sense of dread in Reiner's mind because he knows Eren might do this thing, right? That he doesn't even care about that, you know, silly little thing he said all that time ago. Yeah, you know, Reiner found out that his intention is something else entirely at this point in time, that he's changed quite a bit since they last met. I think you could even say that maybe coming across the sea gave Eren a bit of a crucible moment, right? A transformative experience. Lord Tybur, you know, that scene as he looks over to his right, and he looks at the tall guard and the maid. More on those two later, but you know, he thinks to himself, stand there and watch. This is my atonement, right? And then, you know, those drums start playing and then that music kicks in. That iconic score from the first episode or the first attack in Attack on Titan or Shingeki episode 1, you know. On that day, humanity was reminded, right? That was such an incredible scene and such incredible use of that music, you know, to bring that in. Like I said, you know, it was brilliant. Everything about this episode was just brilliant. And of course, that applies to the music, right? And the musical cues and the musical choices in certain scenes. Incredible scene. Now, you know, he essentially sacrificed himself to usher in this new era, right? This is a big moment. This is an historic moment for the history of the world, of that world, right? And also it's a definitive moment in establishing the potential endgame of this series, of this story, right? It's so clear at this point in time, the direction the story is going to head into. And, you know, in order to do this, before I even get to that, he essentially put the focus, right, or put the spotlight or the eyes on a specific group of Eldians, right, rather than the Eldian race as a whole, right? So Peri D is the ultimate enemy, right? That's established as the big enemy to humanity, right? And of course, this Eren Yeager, this rebel to the peace. You know, so in that sense, he even kind of reminds me a bit of Commander Smith, you know, that yes, he does want to live, but he also understands that, you know, he has to be, essentially he can, at this point in time, Lord Tybur had to be honest with himself, about himself, and about his situation, right? He decided that, yeah, you know, even though he does want to live, he has to sacrifice himself for the cause, the greater good, right? This is my atonement. And the ironic thing here is that, you know, this sacrifice, you know, this heroic, selfless act, perhaps, this could never be revealed to the people. Because, you know, if the people ever find out that the Marley Nation knowingly let this happen or willingly let this happen, yeah, that would not be good. So isn't it kind of interesting that this family, Tyburs, has been established for such a long time as as these important people, right? Loved by many. But now, this perhaps the greatest act or most selfless act by Lord Tybur. Again, it depends on who you ask, right? Different sides to these things. But, this act cannot be showcased or put out there. This has to stay under wraps because this plan, the whole backbone of the Marley military is here, right? And again, it hasn't happened yet, but there's a good chance they all might get trampled, right? Depending on a potential attack Titan rampage. Again, Lord Tybur and the commander certainly hope that happens, right? Large scale demolition. So yeah, so this could never get out, that's for sure. And it's not going to get out, right? Because Lord Tybur himself is dead, right? I think that's clear to see by the end of this episode. And then there's the commander himself. He's definitely not going to let this out. Now, speaking of the aftermath of this Attack Titan attack, now again, depending on how it plays out, and again, like I said, they certainly hope, Lord Tybur and the commander certainly hope that there is a large-scale demolition, right? They certainly presented the backbone of the military, the Marley military, in a nice little package, all sat together. But beyond that, there's a lot of it's filled. It's a full stadium almost, right? It's like they built this theater and like a stadium almost around it. The seating, that is. So there's a lot of innocent people there. But that being said, you could tell that Eren has already accepted. He's accepted that there's going to be a lot of casualties, and a lot of them are going to be innocent people. He's already killed innocent Eldians in that building, right? So he knows, he's accepted this, and he knows. And, in that sense, how about, the immediate families of the warrior crew, right? They showed me Reiner's mom. They showed me Mr. Leonhardt, and Annie's father. So that was surprising, that was surprising to see. Now, there's every chance if he goes on a rampage that many more could get trampled, and that could include close family members, right? And that introduces yet another tangent or angle to all of this, that close family members are going to die because of Eren doing this. Now imagine someone like Mr. Leonhardt dying. How does that, affect Annie in the future of this story? Because one of her main goals was always to, come back to him, right? To come back home. Say he dies here, and there's a good chance he could end up dying here. How does her story get affected beyond that point? And just like Eren's mom died in episode 1 all that time ago, he asked Reiner, why did my mom have to die? It's highly likely that Reiner's mom could end up dying here, right? So the potential is there for a lot of death. And then how about people like Colt and the other candidates, right? They're in the crowd. So yeah, there is a potential for perhaps multiple major deaths, right? Because, Peak and Galliard, the Jaw and Cart are not around. They're stuck down in a trap. More on that later. Zeke Yeager is not around, right? So that's 3 Titans that are just not in the picture at the moment. Of course, Reiner and the Armored Titan is not in the picture. And I, don't believe for a second they've died or anything. Surely Reiner must have done something or managed something in time, right? So no Titans around at all to counter the Attack Titan. Now then, there is a potential of a Titan, right? Those ones are out of the picture, but there is the potential of the Warhammer Titan. Now, they made it a point to show us a shot of the tall guard and the maid. So they've effectively narrowed it down to 2, right? They've dwindled it down to 2 and made it like a 50-50 chance here, right? They drew attention to the guard and the maid, who is actually quite attractive, if I do say so. Though I digress. Let's get back on point. They showed both of them. So there you have it, 50-50 chance. I still believe that, the tall guard being the Warhammer Titan might have felt too on the nose, but, here it is. There's a 50-50 chance that it could be him, right? Or it could be the maid. I'm just going to stick to my original prediction that it's one of the 3 females. Because again, I felt the tall guard seemed a bit too on the nose, a bit too perfect for the Warhammer Titan, right? So I'll go with the maid. Now I'm assuming it's the maid because she's in like the clothing, the black clothing, and it reminds me of a maid's outfit. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep continuing or I'm gonna continue calling her the maid, I guess, because I don't know. But yeah, I'll just stick to that prediction that it's one of the three, and it's probably going to end up being this maid. Though it could totally be the guard as well. 50-50 chance at this point. Regardless of who it ends up being, there's every chance that this Warhammer Titan might finally show itself and counter the Attack Titan, right? They've been setting up this Warhammer Titan for some time now, from that day. They set up this elusive 9th Titan, right? Now, they mentioned it early in season 4, and there's no more Titans around, right? All of them are out of the picture. So this is the moment. This is the time. This is the perfect time for the Warhammer Titan to kick in. So one of those two, there's a good chance one of those two is going to transform, right, to counter the Attack Titan. And the fact that there might be a fight, two Titan shifters fighting it out, it's going to cause even more death and destruction, and that goes back to the Annie and Eren fight, or the female Titan and Attack Titan fight back from season 1, right? In Stohess, they caused a lot of destruction, right, and death, a lot of casualties. So it wouldn't be the first time the Attack Titan has caused casualties, innocent casualties on a mass scale. They ravaged through Stohess, right? That was a talking point. How badly they destroyed Stohess in that fight. And you see the aftermath of that fight. Yeah, it was quite a bit of damage, and there was death, that's for sure. So there's every chance that could happen here as well. And okay, that could be a cool parallel here, right? If the maid does end up being the Warhammer Titan, now you have another female Titan kind of fighting the Attack Titan, right? In the middle of a city. So yeah, that could be a cool parallel, right? And I'm on the topic of that fight. I just remembered again. By the conclusion of that fight, Eren goes into one of those trances, right? He goes into that trance of almost losing control. I mean, he lost control at that time. Hanji even, noticed. She's like, oh, he's not in control anymore. Or he's losing control. And at that point in time, he's saying things like, I'm free. I'll destroy the whole world, right? And then, playing on that, it happened even earlier in the series, right? Or in the season, in the Forest of the Giant Trees, the first time the female Titan and the Attack Titan fight, right? He's in a mount position. He's on top of Annie, and he's going into that trance again. His face is freaking out. And then I believe he said something like, I'll rip you apart, right? Piece by piece, and I'll eat you. So, wow. Primal Urge, that was one of the running themes of season 1, right? And you see that Primal Urge take over in those two moments. And, staying in the Forest of the Giant Trees, you have Heicho, Levi. He straight up called him a real monster, didn't he? This is around the time Eren is deciding if he's going to turn into the Attack Titan, or if he's going to just, fall in line and go through with the plan of the scouts, right? Listen to the scouts, her captain, to Heicho. And I always found that him calling Eren a real monster at that moment in time, it was quite interesting. And he said that he cannot be tamed. No matter how much you restrain him, this guy's a real monster. He cannot be tamed. So much like the training episode, right? The infamous training episode, or the training days. The Forest of the Giant Trees is quite infamous as well at this point. A lot of times, talking points come out of that, or my thought process goes back to things that have happened there, and quite a bit happened in the Forest of the Giant Trees for a lot of different characters, right? Just now, this, I just remember this other moment of Eren having that primal urge, and then, Heicho calling him a real monster. Now, moving on to Eren's family and friends, Armin and Mikasa and the scouts. And that's been established in this episode. It's confirmed in this episode that, yes, those letters did go to the scouts, his comrades. He confirms this to Reiner and Falco. And, I talked about how he's potentially updating them on his current location, his condition, because it was starting to become clear that they don't actually know his current location or what he's even up to, maybe. And he even told Falco that right now it's kind of tough to face his family, right? Though he also told him after this he does plan on going back to his hometown, right? So again, another parallel. Reiner and Bertolt used to say that a lot around Eren, right? That they one day they hope to return to their hometown. So even before all of this, the idea of them not being on good terms is an interesting tangent, isn't it? That he finds himself at odds with his closest friends and allies, right? So that in itself, I hope I get to see some sort of flashback at some point. And Isayama-san has certainly created more than enough reason for flashbacks at this point in time. The whole time skip situation. For a few episodes now, there's been a strong case for Eren potentially doing his own thing out here. So could that be a reason for this potential falling out or being at odds, perhaps, and not being able to face his family at the moment, as he told Falco? Is it because he wanted to go through with this plan and they had disagreements? Maybe not everyone is on board, perhaps. Yet he's still here doing this, maybe. And all of that being said, he sent out these letters so they know about his plan or his location and that he's fine. So they know that much. That's for sure, right? They certainly established that in this episode as well. The letters got to them. Now then, Eren has taken definitive action, right? He has gone through with this plan of action, and a lot of innocent people have died, right? Now you have to ask the question, how are people like Armin and Mikasa going to see this, or feel about this? I could totally see Armin not being down for this or not being on board with something like this, right? Mikasa might not like it that innocents have died or innocent civilians have died, but it's Mikasa. Mikasa and Eren are... It's a different thing, right? That's an eternal connection. She's always going to be by his side. And then you have, figureheads like Hanji, Levi, right? What about their thoughts on this? Then, even back home on Paradis, you have Queen Historia, maybe people like Zachary and other figureheads, right? How are they going to feel about this? Now, the other figureheads might not care that much about, their enemy being trampled or crushed or, this Lord Tybur dying. But, let's look at the close circle of friends and allies and, figureheads like Hanji and Levi. So that in itself also presents quite an exciting prospect, right? To see how they all react to this. But all of that is for a later time, right? You deal with that later, because right now, Eren is out here. The Attack Titan is out here, and the Warhammer Titan might come into play as well in the next episode, most likely. And they've established that Jean is here, right? They showed me Jean in episode 1, and since then I've assumed that the rest of the scouts are here too, right? So that is also an exciting possibility that they are here, or at least a few of them are here, or they're around. So now then, let's talk about Lady Kiyomi. Now, they also said a different name earlier. Now, I say they, Lord Tybur, Azumabito, right? Azumabito. Now, two different names, but I think her actual name is Kiyomi, I believe. I guess the first name kind of sounded like something more respectful, but then Lady Kiyomi sounded more like her actual name. Now then, one of the most interesting things to come out of this episode, right, in a list of interesting things, is the fact that she knew. She got out of there. She had intel about this, right? So that's one of the biggest things coming out of this episode. She got out of there quick, man. She knew how it's about to go down, how it's about to play out, right? And the fact that she knows is a major deal, because only a handful of people know about this, right? You have the commander and Lord Tybur, and then you have Eren, who had intel about this, right? And because of that intel, he positioned himself here in that location, right? That optimal location, right by the stage, as he told Reiner. You can hear everything. And I still believe that it's Zeke Yeager who provided this intel to Eren. In fact, I think he probably even scouted that location for him. You know, he probably even gave him that spot, or told him about that spot, or told him to go to that spot. So the fact that she knows is fascinating, isn't it? Now, there's no chance in hell the commander or Lord Tybur told her about this, right? Because just like her, other important, you know, delegates and people from other nations, important people, representatives of other nations are present in that crowd, right? As Lord Tybur is on stage, giving, you know, his performance. So there's no reason for him to give her any specific, you know, preferential treatment, right? And they've established that she, you know, that Udo scene, they've established that she is sympathetic towards Eldians, right? So again, this plays into that, you know, possibility or that potential that even Paradis in this time skip has somehow aligned themselves with allies, right? And I know for a fact that there's a record of people from the Oriental clan or Haizuru perhaps being inside Paradis, inside the walls, right? Though they did dwindle down over time, and you have Mikasa, right? Mikasa's the only one left now. So again, there's that connection that, you know, they used to be in Paradis, or, you know, part of their clan used to be in Paradis. And of course, the whole dwindling down of it came down to the fact that the Oriental clan and the Ackerman clan turned their backs on the royal family, right? So for that reason, they were persecuted. You know, Kenny's grandpa tells him this. So like a quick point on that, isn't it crazy? Oh yeah, this is you know, this paradise that King Fritz wanted. Yet it's only paradise if you follow everything that's set up for you, right? If you stay in line. And you know, the Ackerman clan and the Oriental clan. Now I'm calling them the Oriental clan because Kenny's grandpa put it that way, right? That's what he called them. Haizuru, people of Haizuru, perhaps, you know, they turned their backs on them. So it wasn't much of a paradise for them, was it? Again, you know, more on that later. The concept of the paradise within Paradis. Now, staying on the idea of, you know, important people being removed from the situation, how about the warrior unit, right? They are extracted from that situation, right? Now, this could actually serve a purpose for both sides, right? Now, if you look at it from Commander's perspective, right, and Lord Tybur's perspective, that plan they have of, you know, a large-scale demolition is needed, they don't want the warrior unit springing into action the moment they see Attack Titan up there, right? They want the Attack Titan to have some time at least, right? Because they've nicely packaged the backbone of the Marley military, right? Including the general. Starts with a C, his name. I can't remember the exact name, but yeah, it's right there in a nice little package. So yeah, they don't want the other time shifters to spring into action to stop that. You know, at least not at first, maybe, right? They need to give the Attack Titan some time, right, to take care of this demolition, perhaps. So it certainly serves a purpose for them. So you can understand that he sent soldiers to get the warrior crew. But now the really exciting thing that happened here is this mysterious new figure, right? And I think she's female. I think there's one shot that makes it quite clear that she's female, and the voice as well. Now, for a time, for a split second, I did have a thought in my mind of that potentially being Armin, right? But then I saw, you know, the shot of this person. There's a clear shot of, you know, the big eyes, and, you know, you see the way the nose is drawn. It was a female. I think it was clear from that shot it was a female, and the clearly fake beard, right? You know, so in that sense, speaking of Game of Thrones parallels, perhaps Shingeki's own Brienne of Tarth, because she's quite tall, isn't she? Even the voice, it you know, it feels like a female's voice, but it's quite commanding. There's quite a presence there, right? Now, she intercepted the soldiers that are meant to, you know, go bring the warrior unit to take them out of that situation. So, yeah, and, you know, another interesting thing that happened here is that Peak recognizes this person, meaning right from that point, it kind of eliminated any chance of it being someone I know from the scouts, especially given the physical form, so tall, and then later revealed to be a female. This is someone new that I haven't seen yet, from the looks of it. Yet Peak knows this person, right? She was adamant that she's seen this person before, twice. First, she directly asked this person, I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. And then down in the pit, as she's speaking with Galliard, she's so sure that she might have seen this person before. They seem familiar. Yes, Peak did get a chance to look at some of the scouts in Shiganshina, mainly around the time she rescues Zeke. She saw Levi there. This is definitely not Levi. And then she rescues Reiner. And then, she gets to see maybe Jean, Hanji. None of these characters look like this person, Yes, Armin, blonde hair, but, it's not fitting. The voice is not fitting. The height is not fitting at all. So it appears it's someone that Peak has seen before, yet it's a new character to us, the audience. So another exciting prospect. But notice how Zeke Yeager, right, the war chief, is separated from the two, Galliard and Peak. And I love his reaction. He's like, hi, the moment she told him that he's needed at this gate. Notice how quickly he just goes along with the plan. That being said, it appears that Peak might have pulled a fast one on this mysterious new female figure, soldier. She goes to hug one of the Panzer unit members, right? These are the guys that ride on top of the Car Titan, in those barracks almost. I'm not sure the exact terminology, but I've just been calling them barracks. The reaction of the other guys, it was so funny, so it appears that even they are crushing on Peak-chan, much like all of us. But yeah, it appears that she might have told that one guy, the one she hugged, something, right, to tip them off. So yes, at the moment they are stuck in a pit, but let's see how this plays out. There is a chance that maybe they could turn up. And you can see that in his expression, you see the others are kind of like jealous and just annoyed that he got lucky enough, yet he is just like almost baffled, like a deer in headlights almost. And then of course there's that one line of dialogue, right? Has it begun? The commander said this. So yeah, they've known this. Now then, I think it is time I take a deep dive into Zeke Yeager. Oh. Now then, going back to that day, that stunning revelation, right? The confirmation that Zeke Yeager is of royal lineage, of royal blood, right? And as you guys remember, that was one of the most exciting things to come out of season 3, for me at least. I had quite the reaction to that. That had me quite excited, just because of the possibilities and everything that is possible now, because there is this other royal who happens to be Yeager, right? Grisha Yeager's other son. And is a relative to Eren Yeager. Now, in that episode, you see Grisha hold that baby, and he stated, a child of royal blood. One day he'll lead us to victory, right? He said that. That's one of the standout scenes of that day. Again, the confirmation, and then Grisha saying that about him. And, in that episode, or in the discussion for that episode, I brought up the point that even though, yes, at that age he gave up his parents, he still kind of, down the line, he still ended up going through with part of that plan, didn't he? Become a warrior, right? Excel, right? He excelled more so than anyone else, right? He earned the rank of war chief. They even call him the Wonder Boy. So he certainly, still became one of the candidates, and then goes on to take one of the 9, the Beast Titan, right? The war chief. So that was always interesting, that still ended up happening, right? Now, of course, he could have been doing that to clear his name, to remove the stain that his parents put on the Yeager name, and, in an attempt to save and protect his own grandparents, much like Colt and Falco are doing for the Grice name, and have been successful in, right? They successfully kind of protected the Grice name, especially since Colt is now, next in line to become the Beast Titan. Yes, that could have been the reason for that, right? But given the developments of this season and, the info, the hints, right, about Zeke Yeager, I think it gives us more than enough information to believe that Zeke Yeager has his own agenda, right? given things like him holding back his royal lineage from the Marley military, right? Holding that information back, that he is of royal blood. They don't know this. They've also established that he's quite careful about the things he puts out there, right? Knowing that some of these rooms are bugged, or maybe all of them are bugged, right? The commander even made note of that. He had some concern about this, that Zeke is being careful about this kind of thing and trying to tip off the other members of the unit. Galliard unfortunately couldn't understand the hint, but Reiner did, and he kind of stepped in for Galliard before Galliard said something that could get him into trouble. Then of course the bombshell, the major revelation of the baseball glove and the baseball itself. Eren having that right beside him on the bench. That's undeniable, right? That connection is undeniable, that he is now in contact with his younger brother, Eren Yeager, who happens to be the holder of the founding Titan, right? So you cannot ignore these things anymore. It's right there, it's in our face at this point in time. So yes, of course, at this point in time, Zeke Yeager is one of the most fascinating characters of the story. No doubts about it. I'm so excited about this. And there's so many different tangents to go on now, to talk about Zeke here and the different angles. Let's begin with separating him from Galliard and Peak, from Jaw and Cart. That alone is quite a big deal, isn't it? Because, this guard is essentially telling Zeke, oh, you're not needed, you're needed somewhere else. And she kind of freely just lets him go to the gate. Yet she has to escort Galliard and Peak to this trap, right? To make sure they fall into that trap and they're out of the picture for now. So they needed an escort to make sure they fall into this pit, and the Beast Titan didn't, the deadliest of them all, perhaps. See, right there, that right there is a big deal, right? That she just freely lets him go on, meaning Zeke does not plan on being around, right? Meaning he's willingly stepping out of the situation, right? Because he wants Eren to do what he needs to do, and he knows Eren is going to do this, right? Because he gave him the intel to begin with, I think. So that also brings up the possibility that Zeke might know this guard, and that they are part of this scheme, right? This grand plan that's going down at the moment. So, wow. Yeah, and also, Zeke not being around and no one being around him to see how it turns out for Zeke, now it gives him a chance to, make up something down the line, perhaps, in the aftermath of this. Oh, I was jumped, I was bamboozled, I was sucker punched, I was knocked out, or something like that, right? Incapacitated. And that being the reason he couldn't, show up on the scene, perhaps, to counter the Attack Titan. Though, of course, like I mentioned, they don't want the unit to jump in right away, right? They do want to give Eren a chance to, perhaps go on a rampage for a bit, at least. I'm speaking of, once again, of the commander and Lord Tybur. That's the whole reason they had to get the unit out of there, right? But then they got intercepted by this mysterious new figure. So I've been going on and on about sleeper agents. Zeke is essentially a double agent, because now at this point in time, he is in contact with the enemy, this rebel against peace, Eren Yeager, his younger brother, holder of the founding Titan, the Attack Titan himself. He's in contact, right? And he is, he's helping him. He's giving him intel, right? They've clearly been in contact. And he also happens to be the war chief of the warrior unit, right? So as far as Marley knows, he's still devoted to them. So he's playing the double agent at this point. That being said, like I stated earlier, the commander does have some concerns about Zeke. Or at least he voiced it in that one shot from, or in that one scene from episode 2, right? Zeke saying, "Not in this room." So yeah, the prospect of him playing the double agent is one of the most exciting things, in the near future, because there is going to be an aftermath to this. Eren did say he plans on returning home, and then, of course, there is going to be some sort of aftermath. Let's see how Zeke handles this, right? Now, he's been established as a double agent, so, now it'll be so interesting to see how he kind of handles this. Right. Now let's move on to the Zeke and Eren connection, right? These brothers, the Yeager brothers. It's been established that Eren has been in contact. He has a contact here in Marley. Zeke has visited him in the hospital, clearly. And again, he has a great cover because his grandpa's there as well. So they've been talking, right? He's been giving Eren intel. Who knows what they've talked about, right? That's one of the most exciting prospects of this story, finding out the things they've been saying to each other, right? But the question I have is, how did this happen? How did this begin? How did they initially get in contact? Did it happen at the hospital, right? Did Eren kind of surprise Zeke just like he surprised Reiner? Did this happen in that Mideast area after the battle of Fort Slava, right? Before boarding the train, did Eren meet him there, right? Or is this even before that? That's a really interesting bit, right? How did they get in contact? Now, is it possible this is the reason Eren might be on his own? Because he wanted to keep a low profile, perhaps, right? And somehow get in contact with Zeke. But, again, I'm trying to find out how that even happened. How could Eren possibly know to get in contact with Zeke? That's the missing piece here, the exciting missing piece here. Now then, here's a thought, right? Let's go back to the season 3 finale, season 3, episode 22, The Other Side of the Wall, right? Eren finally realized, or came to that realization, that the reason he was able to control the Titans for a moment in time is because he made contact with Dinah Fritz, right? And she was of royal blood, of royal lineage. That was the reason he was able to do it. And, in that episode, he showed a lot of concern for Historia, so much so that he wasn't ready to tell anyone or, give this information out. And this was because he was fearful of how this could turn out for Historia, right? He doesn't trust the military completely. So yeah, he kept that info to himself, right? And, in that discussion, I brought up the possibility, or I brought up the notion that, there is one other figure out there, right? That is of royal blood, of royal lineage. And of course, this is before they've confirmed that they are in contact at this point in time. But, at that point, I was talking about them potentially meeting in the battlefield again and him touching the Beast Titan, right? Or maybe Zeke might be doing his own thing, and maybe down the line it could be possible somehow, this other person of interest, this other person of royal blood lineage already happens to be a Titan, the Beast Titan, right? So this is the biggest game-changing, one of the biggest tide-turning moments of the series right here, right? That this is now possible, right? Actually, it's a given. It's a given if Eren touches him in his Beast Titan form, he will be able to unlock the abilities of the Founding Titan and the control aspect and the many other things that come along. And I'll get into that, the capabilities of the Founding Titan. There's a lot of crazy things that are possible. Now, they've met in the hospital. They've discussed many things. Surely they've discussed this, right? They've certainly discussed this possibility that it is now possible to use the Founding Titan, right? And as I say that, I'm getting this funny mental image of like Eren sitting on the shoulder of the Beast Titan. Okay. Compose yourself. But yeah, that possibility is there now. But of course, in Marley, you're not going to be able to do anything about that, right? You can't just have Zeke transform into the Beast Titan and Eren is there to touch him. It has to be a plan of action for things, right? Lord Tybur, he kind of bluffed a bit, right? He kind of cooked the books a bit. He said Eren Yeager could trigger this stampede that might flatten the earth at any moment, right? At this moment in time, Eren cannot do that. He can now that he is in contact with Zeke, right? More of that later. But, he didn't know that. Lord Tybur has no idea. Now Lord Tybur is trying to, establish that this is the imminent danger, right? So he has to kind of lie a bit about this, right? To really solidify this danger, immediate danger, and the immediate need to unify against the enemy, the rebel against peace. Now, even though Lord Tybur didn't know this for sure, it's established that apocalyptic situation is certainly a possibility now, that Eren could potentially unlock the abilities of the Founding Titan if he comes in contact with the Beast Titan, right? And here you have confirmation that they are in contact already. So exciting times, Now, again, all of that feels like endgame scenarios, right? This apocalyptic situation of the Wall Titans coming out. How about something on a smaller scale, right? How about the fact that anytime Eren has touched someone of royal blood in human form, be it Rod Rice, be it Historia, in that underground chapel, and then once again in the season 3 finale, anytime he's touched them or has come in contact with them, that unlocked a memory or some profound memories, right? So there's also the possibility of that, right? So there's that angle as well, Eren just touching Zeke in human form could unlock some really important memories, right? Something quite substantial, perhaps. So have they even done that already? Who knows, right? They have been meeting up at the hospital. He's been seeing Eren there. They've certainly talked about things. So there's that prospect as well, right? Could there be even more important memories coming out of this? As established a long time ago in the underground chapel, Eren has the history of the world in him because he has the founding titan, right? So yeah, a lot of exciting things might be possible now. And also, how about, the memory erase capabilities of the founding titan? They can, the founding titan can do that on a large scale. There's a lot of other things the founding titan is capable of, right? It all kind of depends on how Eren and Zeke potentially plan on using it. So much to think about. But also, before I get too excited, I know next to nothing about the things they've talked about, right? The only thing I know for sure is that they are in contact and that he is perhaps giving Eren intel, and they've talked about things. Meaning they are kind of, on the same side secretly. Now, again, the unknown here is his motives, right? That's the, yes, he finds himself in contact with his younger brother now, right? Who has the founding titan, and he happens to be the beast titan of, royal lineage. Yet it's not clear. His motives are still not clear at this point in time. But the one thing that is clear enough is that he does have his own agenda, his own motives. Yes, he's been trying to get the founding titan on Marley's behalf, but I can say, with confidence that he has his own plans for the founding titan. That's why, there's this. It feels like everything he does has been in pursuit of the founding titan, right? You go back to season 3, episode 15, Descent. They're having that coffee on the top of the walls before the Battle of Shiganshina takes place, right? The calm before the storm. He talks about, putting an end to this cursed history, recovering the coordinate and then putting an end to this cursed history. Right? And then at the end of that, at the conclusion of the battle for Shiganshina, he meets Eren. Right, he sees his younger brother for the first time, his half brother, and again, as I've mentioned, he showed no malice towards Eren. Right, he even told him that one day I'm going to return and rescue you. Right, so that also could give you a bit of a insight or some insight on his motives, perhaps. Now, let's skip to season 4, episode 2. Right, he's the one, right? He's the one who kind of gets up there in front of the general and all these high-ranking officials, and he brings up the concept or the notion to resume the Paradis Island mission, right? To recover the founding titan. He's the one who brings that back up. So so at all times, he's always focusing on the founding titan, and of course, there's that standout shot, that ominous shot of him looming above, right? The framing of that shot, looming above the general and the high-ranking officials. And then, on that point, let's go back to the Liberio Festival plan. How much of a hand does Zeke have in this? You have to start asking about the inception of this plan. Was it Lord Tybur himself, right, who came up with this plan? Or did Zeke have a hand in this, right? How much was he part of this in concocting this mission and trying to move the pieces, put all the right pieces in the right places, perhaps, right? So, he did say in his room, as he's talking to the other members, that this plan is crucial to the future of Eldia or Marley Nation and Eldia, right? It cannot fail. So yeah, you really do have to look at everything Zeke is saying as something quite interesting at this point in time could have a double meaning, right? An alternative meaning. Now, I say that because he's the first character that speaks of this festival on screen, right? He's the one who brings this up in the story. So yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to find out who actually, started the idea of this plan, the inception of this Liberio festival plan. But yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Zeke himself might have, cooked this plan up. And then he kind of got in contact with all the right people, right? In all the right places. And this does happen after Zeke already brings up the idea of, resuming, or, putting out the idea of resuming the Paradis Island operation. So I don't know, man. In terms of another angle, you could also look at his father, Grisha Yeager's original, or the Restorationists' original motives, right? Their plan was to obtain the Founding Titan, restore the Eldian Empire, and, they wanted to annihilate the Marley nation, right? And at one point in time, Grisha even said, "I'll show them who the real devil is," right? So there's another angle there, right? Restoring the Eldian Empire, and, annihilating Marley, right? So at that point in time, those restorationists had ideas of, this vicious cycle continuing, and now they wanted to oppress Marley once again, right? They wanted to be on top, show them who the real devil is. In the discussion for that day, I did bring up the possibility of him potentially going through with that plan all this time later, because perhaps, with age comes wisdom, right? And maybe in time and with age, he realized that, yeah, maybe my parents did have the right idea back then. And, maybe that could be a reason he continued on that path to, excel as one of the candidates and become the Beast Titan and the War Chief. And, of course, established he has a great relationship with his grandparents. He has a love for his grandparents, and he knows that his grandpa has regrets, a lot of regrets, right? They show us that. So, yeah, that could be another angle in terms of his motives. So even though both of them know that, having Zeke Yeager of Royal Blood and Eren Yeager holding the Founding Titan together, they know that this is a game changer, right? Swing of the pendulum, perhaps. Yet, at this point in time, it's tough to say if they, if their end game, their motives, if they're the same, right? That's the big, unknown at this point in time. Zeke's motives are still, not clear. There's just, possibilities and potentials that I've brought up. So yeah, let's see how it all plays out. Again, I hope to see more of Zeke and Eren together. And before I move on from Zeke Yeager, the Wonder Boy, and one of the most interesting characters of the story at this point in time, there's also, the angle of the scouts, right? Or there's another angle, right? The scouts, Eren's close friends and allies, right? Is this the reason he told Falco that, it might be tough to face my family at this moment? Because he is collaborating with Zeke Yeager, the Beast Titan, who they know as this ruthless Titan shifter, the Beast Titan, who was responsible for decimating most of the scouts, who ended up being responsible for the death of their Commander Smith. So yeah, that could be another angle here. Maybe that's the reason he feels like he might not be able to face them at this moment in time, because if they find out that he's collaborating with this individual, you have people like Levi who wants to kill him. You have, other members of the scouts who have reason to hate this individual or this being they know as the Beast Titan. So yeah, there's another angle there, right? But listen, man. Yeah, he killed a lot of scouts, that's for sure. And just now, Eren just killed a lot of innocent Eldians. It goes back to that notion of the owl, right? He had to do some terrible things for a long, long time, right? To play the long game. And sometimes that requires some sacrifices, right? So yeah, and in that sense, a cool parallel, I guess, to the owl is that, the owl was in his last stages of being the attack titan, right? He had to give it to Grisha at that moment in time. you could see that he's struggling at this point in time. And now you also have Zeke here, who only has 1 year left on his term as a Beast Titan. So yeah, cool little parallel there. And there's that scene in episode 2, I believe, Zeke, the commander, and Colt outside on the balcony, right? And Zeke tells the commander it's more like, I have 1 year to try. So once again, you can try to read into the things he's saying and if they could have other meanings, right? Right then, let's talk about Karl Fritz. Interesting figure, that's for sure. A king who cannot protect his people is not a king at all. Eren Kruger, right? He said that. And I still remember as he said that, there's that amazing shot of Grisha's face kind of transitioning into Eren's face sitting in that boardroom or that the meeting, right, looking quite somber. This is a backstory I would love to see, right? I don't know what the chances are of that happening, because you really do need a good reason, an important reason to devote any more time to these types of backstories, right? Especially in the final season. But, that would be fascinating. Now, I say backstory, but I'm talking about perhaps the early days of Parody, right? Right as it's being established as this paradise that Karl Fritz dreams of for a moment in time, at least, before the retribution. And then there's still the matter of the walls and the names of the walls. And as you guys know, for a long time now, since my season 2, episode 1, the Beast Titan reaction and my frame by frame from the ending, I firmly believe those 3 girls to be Maria, Rose, and Cinna, and that the walls are named after them. And of course, that unforgettable frame from the end credits, right? Or the ending of them taking part in the cannibalistic ritual, all 3 of them together. The season 2 end credits, wow, I really do need to go back to those in detail, right? I should really look into that and doing a separate thing just for that. Now, Karl Fritz and his desire for peace, right? In this episode, Lord Tybur really establishes him as this peaceful pacifist, right? That all he really wanted is just peace, right? He's an apologist to the extreme in that sense, right? He feels that the sins of the Eldian Empire are so grave that they can never be forgiven for them, never. Essentially, he was okay with Eldians going extinct, right? Or the Eldian race perishing, right? He said if I believe in the season 3 finale, or maybe season 3 episode 21, the Attack Titan, I believe the owl was mentioning how or he phrased it as the first king of the walls, Karl Fritz, saying that if once again LDI is driven to sin, then they will perish as it's meant to be, right? So yeah, he's totally okay with taking down the rest of the Eldians, right? Because the sins simply cannot be, or the sins of the Eldian Empire cannot be atoned for. All right, so he has a strong take on this, a strong feeling about this pacifist stance, so much so that he kind of passed that down. Not kind of, he did pass it down from generation to generation in the royal family, this ideology, right? And again, in the past I've looked at it as him kind of living on through them. Now, I did get some new information on the relocation or relocating process, right? It appears that he tried his best to take as many as possible. And I'm talking about Eldians, just normal Eldians. Yes, there's those high-ranking noble families. Yeah, they're a part of this, right? Including the Haizuru clan, the Oriental clan. But the thing I always kind of wondered is, how did they pick? The Eldians that get to go, just the normal Eldians and the ones who got left behind. So it appears he did his best to take as many as possible. And essentially, there's a notion here that he was the one trying to gate these Eldians from the world, right? That he's protecting the world from these Eldians and staying out of the limelight or the spotlight. Just, let us do our own thing, right? Though he also felt that it's a foregone conclusion that at some point Marley is going to return for retribution, right? Retribution and the Founding Titan. And of course, they also established that there are some really substantial resources under the island of Paradis, right? So there's also that angle. So sooner or later, Marley was always going to come back, right? And the king accepted that, right? Now, there he's established as this, peaceful pacifist, and he's the one who's been kind of looking out for the world this whole time, right? But Eren Kruger, the owl, called him a cowardly king, right? So it all depends on who you ask. Now, of course, there's his own descendants, people like Yuri Rice and Rod Rice and Frida Rice, who did have notions of changing things or changing the situation, but they couldn't, because the moment they took on the Founding Titan through that generational ritual, they then became part of that ideology, right? It got passed down. And of course, the other members of the royal family disagreed with him, right, back then, and they stayed behind. And this remaining faction is the faction Dinah Fritz came from, right? And Grisha claimed that this is the true royal family, right? They stood their ground and remained on the continent. So it all depends on who you ask. But also this confirms how Marley knows about this being a bluff. That this the Wall Titans threat, the Stampede threat, a rumbling he called it, that this is all just a bluff, right? That he never actually planned on doing that. And they got this intel from the Tyburs, right? Because the Tyburs get the memories of the past holders of the Warhammer Titan. And then, again, Tyburs and Marley are in cahoots. And then, this kind of goes back to that scene of young Reiner telling Marcel and Bertolt to trust the intel Marley has. This is around the campfire, right? And this is around the time Marcel and Bertolt are thinking about, this first king or, the founding Titan holder. And they're really thinking about the possibility of him doing something or not doing something, right? Is he really not going to do anything if we break the wall or put a hole in the wall? And then there's also the matter of this final request, until that inevitable day of retribution, let me savor a brief paradise, free of conflict within these walls, right, within Paradis. And as Lord Tybur is explaining this, there's a stunning shot, alternative stunning shot to that shot right there, right? Beautiful. Oh my god. So that was a pleasant surprise to see that again, and that does give me a chance to go back to that episode, that incredible episode. Yuri said, even within such tiny walls, I was unable to build paradise, and I'm a fool for that, right? Essentially, all the typical human problems kind of slowly starting to come out again, right? Segregation, persecution, and all the other typical human problems. So it wasn't much of a paradise, right? Maybe for a time, but it fell into all those same human problems, right? Human nature comes out on top. Now, if you'll remember, I mentioned that Yuri Rice, it was starting to feel like there's more than one person, or it feels like there's more than one person speaking at different times here, or that there's almost two different personalities within Yuri Rice, right? Because he's saying one thing, and then he'll say another thing that kind of alludes to something that might happen in the future, right? Now, if you'll remember, one of the most intriguing bits of that episode is that line of dialogue, right? In the not too distant future, humanity will crumble, right? And in humanity's fading twilight, I wish to build paradise, right? So that, immediately, to even back then, it sounded to me like something an all-knowing being is saying. It's a pretty definitive statement, right? And this came after Yuri had already told Kenny about the notion that he has to move on soon, yet he plans on being there in humanity's fading twilight. So once again, it feels like the urge to build this paradise is still kind of strong, right? So again, maybe Karl Fritz leaking through once again. Now let's focus on the bit about the world will crumble and humanity's fading twilight. Now those things sound quite apocalyptic, don't they? And the thing is, they have established, or once again, brought attention to something that is quite apocalyptic in its description, right? Actually, they even showed some visual representation of this. They brought up something that actually does fit that narrative, right? Lord Tybur brought up the notion of this stampede of the colossal titans, right? A rumbling, he called it. And he said, once it's set in motion, nothing can stop it. They'll crush and trample and flatten the earth. So, this scenario, this apocalyptic scenario, certainly fits that narrative of, the world will crumble. right? And then in humanity's fading twilight, I wish to build paradise, right? This utopia. And they've certainly set up a hell of a ticking time bomb plot device once again, this concept of a stampede of the colossal titans, right? And that this rebel against peace might set it into motion at any moment, right? So yeah, they certainly did a job of establishing the danger of letting Paradis be, right? So that should certainly expedite the unification against Paradis, right? And a lot of the other things that happened in this episode, like the attack titan actually showing up and killing Lord Tybur, the innocent Lord Tybur, right? But then, that begs the question, does the founding titan have the capability to see fragments of the future then, right? If you have this being, this omnipotent being saying something like this, right? And it appears to fit into that description of this stampede of the colossal titans, right? Or is this potentially going into that fascinating concept of paths they set up in season 3, right? So yeah, still, that's still one of the most interesting and mysterious things stated in the series at any point, in the not too distant future, the world will crumble, and in humanity's fading twilight, I wish to build paradise. Right then, back for part 2. There's still quite a bit I feel like I need to add to this. Now, building off the last thing I was talking about in the first part of this, I was on Yuri, right? Now, speaking of this stampede of the colossal titans, this rumbling, as Lord Tybur called it, they actually showed me a visual depiction of this, right? These colossal titans, but the crazy thing is they've actually shown me something like that a long time ago in the season 2 end credits, right? There's a shot of colossal titans kind of like stomping the ground almost. You see the footprints, flattening the earth, as they called it, right? That's how they described it. So isn't that insane that they've shown me something like that in the end credits? Now, that could be something potentially from the future, though. This possibility from the future. Wow. Insane, really. Let's get into Yuri and Kenny, the friendship, the miracle that is their friendship. Yuri certainly felt that this is a miracle, right? He believed in that miracle. And he was fascinated by this miracle, that's for sure, right? Yet he also knew the unavoidable truth of this world, right? But, his fascination with this miracle was because, these two individuals who are at each other's throats, and on a path to destruction, right? Somehow ended up being friends. Somehow there was peace, right? So this always fascinated Yuri. And in that sense, perhaps, King Fritz, living on through Yuri. He asked the question, what is it that made us friends, right? But maybe he hoped that something or this miracle could have the potential solution to the larger scale problem of, Eldians against Marley, or Eldia against Marley, or even Eldia against the world, right? He knows about the unavoidable truth, yet there is this desire for this miracle to happen once again, perhaps on a larger scale, potential solution. You can see that deep within there is that desire. So the Eldian Empire, it's really starting to sound like, yeah, this dark and terrible history is probably true, right? Because, going back to that day as in the episode, that day, they established two different takes on the Eldian Empire and the history. And, one side established it as this dark and vicious history. The other side, not so much. The Eldians themselves, they had a different take on the Eldian Empire. Now, Lord Tybur stated that the Tyburs are able to see the memories of past holders of the Warhammer Titan. And he put it out there to the world once again that the Eldian Empire has robbed enough lives to eradicate humanity 3 times over, right? That they've robbed cultures, that they've stolen histories because of all of this, their nature. So, in that sense, yeah, you can understand the pacifist stance of this King Fritz, at first at least, right? But to put this ideology on every descendant, everyone that takes over the founding titan beyond him, beyond his time, is the tricky bit, right? He made the call for that entire race. Essentially, he decided that the sins are unforgivable, right? That there is no atonement for this. I'm deciding that the Eldian race is going to pay the price or going to suffer for their sins. Us Eldians deserve to suffer for our sins. So then it starts getting tricky that this one individual is deciding things for everyone. And then, of course, this became kind of like a running theme, using this against Eldians to put them in their place, to make them compliant. You have to pay for the sins of your ancestors, right? Clear your name, clear your name from the filth or the devil blood of the Eldians, right? By doing this for Marley Nation. And yeah, Udo brought up the concept of there being other camps, and those camps apparently are not so forgiving, not so nice in comparison to Marley. So yeah, the descendants of the Eldians, they have it tough, right? Really paying for the sins of their ancestors at this point in time. That being said, there still might be more to it, I still might not have the definitive story on this. It's entirely possible because I haven't seen it myself, and that's why I keep looking towards a potential backstory or potential, memory being unlocked in maybe even in that time, all the way back in the Eldian Empire days. Imagine. Again, it all depends on how far back these memories can go or can be unlocked. Now, as I mentioned in the first part of my discussion, there's a lot of fantastic callbacks and fantastic parallels. And one that I forgot to kind of, go deeper into is the direct parallel to episode 1 of the series, right? This almost perfectly mimics that, doesn't it? Marley was suddenly reminded on that day, right? So it kind of played out just like that episode, didn't it? And then you're going to have young children, similar age as Eren, Armin, and Mikasa, see this devil, Eren Yeager, right? This attack titan attack their home, right? Much like the colossal titan attacked their home on that day. And then going even further, you have people like Udo, Sophia, and Gabby. But Gabby specifically, she's going to see this devil, right? The devil Eldians in action, and it's going to reiterate all her feelings towards these devil Eldians that give them, the good Eldians, such a bad name. She already has such an immense hate for them. Even if you go back to episode 1 of this season, she says she wants to slaughter all of them, right? The ones that made us good Eldians look so bad. Yeah, so wow. I just, I totally forgot about Gabby, that she's going to see all of this, and this is going to mess her up even more. And in that sense, I could totally see her being like Eren himself. Eren developed quite a hatred for the Titans after that day, because his mother died, and of course his home was destroyed. So now I'm thinking of how Gabby might react to this. She already has such a hate for them. This, imagine Gabby being down there, you cannot imagine Gabby being down there in the basement instead of Falco, right? She wouldn't even believe anything for a second, right? So this is fascinating, right? Again, the aftermath is one of the more not exciting, but one of the more interesting aspects of this episode. And, in that basement, Eren is asking questions like, why did my mom have to die? Why did my home get destroyed? And of course, like I mentioned in part 1, that amazing, music selection from that episode, from episode 1. It really was a perfect placement for that, right? As this situation kind of mimics that situation all over again, but this time in Marley, but in Liberio, right? Home to many Eldians, including, Gabby and Reiner's family and Reiner's mom. Now, all of that being said, it all depends on who ends up surviving that. Gabby could even die. Who knows? And Udo and Sophia are out there. Colt is out there. Again, immediate family is out there. And if it plays out how Lord Tybur and the commander needed to play out, a large-scale demolition, there's going to be a lot of carnage, right? So now you have to look at how certain characters are going to look at this situation and how it's going to change their lives forever. Because it is, just like it changed Eren's life forever, it's going to change a lot of other characters' lives forever, depending on who survives this. So one of the things I kind of left out in the first part of the discussion and then, decided to go back and record part 2 are, 3 things I've been, or at least 2 of those things I've been needing to do for some time now. The intro and the outro, after seeing the lyrics, and then also the rewatch, the official subtitles for episode 4. So like I already mentioned, even the title was different. The translation for the title of the episode, the official subs called it From One Hand to Another, right? Yet the other one called it From Hand to Hand, I believe. Now, the crazy thing is, even though the translations are so different, these subs are meant to be quite popular, apparently. Perhaps maybe because they come out first before the official subs, but, I know a lot of people prefer the other subs, the fan subs, over the official subs, but my plan is certainly to stick to the official subs. Now, one of the main differences is that the translations in the fan sub edition, or the version of episode 4, a lot of these statements are definitive, right? Now, an example of this is, essentially the commander stated that hopefully letting Marleyans get a taste of war will be enough to stop our self-destructive march towards war, right? Now, that's kind of like he's hopeful of this, right? It's not a definitive statement that he believes. Yet in the other ones, he already came to the conclusion that this wouldn't stop them from throwing their country into wars until it implodes, right? So again, one has a definitive statement and that he already has a stance on this, and the other, the official subs are saying that he's hopeful of this slowing them down, right? So in the official subs, Falco said, "I'm doing it for you." Yet in the fan subs, he said, "I care for you," right? Now, this makes more sense that it kind of goes over Gabby's head, right? This thing he said. Now, one of them is a bit more subtle, right? Open to interpretation. The other is quite definitive, because I care for you, right? And then moving to the other commander and Lord Tybur scene, the whole concept about a full scale demolition is required. In the official subs, he said it has decayed beyond repair, but in the fan subs, age has taken its toll on my house, right? I certainly prefer the official subs on this line as well, because it's, it really gets that point across that this large-scale demolition is needed. It's decayed beyond repair. And, staying on that conversation, so the official subs said some pillars remained usable, right? In the fan subs, they said just one pillar remained to hold it up. So you see, once again, it's the fan subs make it quite definitive, just one pillar. Yet the official subs say some pillars remained usable, right? So more than one in that sense, that it's not narrowing it down to just one pillar. It's quite specific, right? In the fan subs. And then he said, according to them, the house is infested with rats. That's the official subs. Yet the fan subs made it seem quite definitive once again, right? And then in the fan subs, the pillar informed me that a rat has already found its way into my home, right? So a singular, right? They're saying just a rat. And for that reason, I thought that they mean that they are alluding to just one person, as in Eren Yeager. Yet the official subs made it seem like there might be more, right? More than just one problem, that there's many different problems in Marley at the moment. That it's infested with rats, so Eren Yeager is not the only problem if you look at the official subs, right? And Eren to his grandpa, this is again not as subtle in the fan subs. You have regrets about your own family. That's the official translation. Again, I like that much better, because he's posing a question, because he knows, right? He knows how it all played out. Because he has Grisha's memories. Yet in the fan subs, he said, sounds like you're talking about yourself. it's quite a direct statement, right? To someone that you're not meant to know. You know, he's not supposed to know Yeager, Dr. Yeager. And then also the lady from Haizuru, right? Lady Kiyomi, now I know. The official subs called her Easterner, right? And the fan subs called her Oriental. Though I believe the official subs also called or use that term, right? Kenny's grandpa, he used that term in the subs, the official subs, I think, for season 3, part 1. He used the term Oriental, or the subs use that term. So yeah, I'd say that's about it for the major differences. Right then, next up, the intro. Okay, the intro and the ending. Now, you know, I've been hoping to get to this for sure. Now, you know, in my reaction to episode 1 and my discussion in episode 1, I actually covered quite a bit about the ending, right? And my thoughts about it, and, you know, how Falco is prominently featured in that. And yeah, you know, so for the ending, this one is more so about the lyrics, because again, I gave my thoughts. I think, some detailed thoughts in my episode 1 reaction, right? The discussion. But the intro, yeah, this, you know, I was told that this is completely spoiler free. You know, yet I think if you go frame by frame, you can see some things. I think you can put some things together. Let's see if I'm onto something or not. Now, one of the running themes of this intro is the representation of the acts of war themselves, right? And how, you know, soldiers are more so tools, right? Replaceable, expendable. Yet the actual actions of the war are the ones that are being depicted in vibrant colors, right? You see explosions, different colors of explosions. You see the flamethrower, again, you know, colors. Now, you know, again, the tricky thing here, since I have been told that this is completely spoiler-free, is to decide if this is just imagery, right? This is just imagery made for this, or if it is alluding to something, to something in this story at some point. Now, again, you know, I have been told it's completely spoiler-free, but that being said, there are some shots that I think I have figured out, and I'll try my best to put these shots on the screen as I'm talking about them. But you know, before I get into any of those shots, you know, there's a shot of a bunch of ships, right? And these explosions are going off, massive explosions, and again, they're presented in color, right? Now, the thing to notice here is that these explosions are coming out of the water, right? It's clear to see that they're coming from below. Now, is that some sort of submarine missile, right, going off? But, you know, they're missing the ships. That's the thing, though. You know, these explosions are coming out of the water, but they're missing the ships. So first thought, is this depicting, like, submarine attacks? But again, they seem to be missing all the targets. So, you know, that in itself is quite interesting. These explosions out of the water. Now, this next thing, you know, this is one of the most noticeable things about the opening, and this is one of the things I noticed on my first viewing of it, of the opening. That is, you know, the Titan transformation. There's a clear Titan transformation going on. It's really early on in the opening. You see the spine taking place. You see the flesh, right? It reminded me of Rod Rice's Titan from season 3, part 1. So yeah, you know, that's kind of unmissable, and it lingers on it long enough that you are able to notice it. It's not a flash, right? It certainly stays on the screen for a second or two, so it's noticeable, that Titan transformation. So I don't know if that's just depicting, you know, Titan transformations in general, right? Or if that's meant to be a shot from the series at some point. Again, I've been told that this is meant to be spoiler free, so maybe it is just a shot of a Titan taking form, right? Now, again, explosions, large-scale explosions are prominently featured throughout the episode, right? And then, of course, birds are prominently featured. And, you know, birds have been featured throughout the series, right from the beginning, right from the first episode. And they've been a symbol of freedom, right? The wings of freedom, if you may. And, you know, the scouts actually use the wings of freedom on their uniform, don't they? But, you know, there's a specific shot of these birds almost kind of falling, or not almost falling, they are falling or being shot down. And if you look at it from that angle, the wings of freedom and the scouts, could this also be a representation of the scouts maybe? If it is, I certainly don't like that imagery because, they're being shot down, or they're not able to, freely roam, perhaps, alluding to the fact that they might not be at home anymore, right? That they're not able to freely roam anymore. It all depends. And speaking of birds, soon after that shot, they show a bunch of birds flying high, right, beside this blimp. So that I thought was more of a depiction of the Marley Nation. Actually, a lot of this stuff is the depiction of Marley Nation's military, right? And their greatness, the military, or their militarism. But yeah, as I just said, there's that majestic shot of these birds flying high alongside the blimp. And of course, there's a marching soldiers. Again, I feel like that's a depiction of Marley's militarism, right? And their greatness. And the Marley propaganda. The first time I ever saw this, I felt like it almost felt like a state-produced hype machine, propaganda hype machine type presentation, right? Ooh, a line of dialogue that really stuck out. Angels playing disguised with devils' faces. Now, I thought immediately that they're talking about perhaps Eldians, right? That they have all of them have the capacity to turn into monsters, as they call them. Now, there's a sequence that shows, a Titan kind of being dropped and then shattering, right? But before it shatters, it kind of almost looks like a child, doesn't it? So I felt that was almost a depiction of child soldiers being used, right, in this manner, being used as weapons of mass destruction, perhaps. And then, in that same sequence, you see two soldiers shatter. Then you see 3 scout members shatter. They're just, generic faces, but they're in scout gear, that's for sure. And then you see 2 blimps shatter. So, really depicting that everyone is going to be affected, right, in this last war of sorts. That's another one of the standout lyrics, right? This is my last war. So everyone's going to be affected by this. And then again, building on that, one of the standout shots from the first time I saw this opening is the shot of a bunch of those Titans dropping down and shattering. Again, they showed that play out in the first episode of the series, being used as aerial bombardment, right? Aerial strikes, aerial missiles, Eldians being used as objects, right, to further the Marley cause, right? Eldians being considered objects rather than humans, right? Expendable and replaceable. And once again, it continues with large-scale explosions, right? Similar to nukes going off, right? Now, that being said, right, this is where it starts getting into potential hints or potential scenes even maybe, or alluding to certain things that might happen. These explosions, or the depiction of these explosions, and I'll put up some pictures as I'm talking about them. They reminded me of, I'm drawing a blank, Bertolt's transformation in season 3, part 2 in Shiganshina. Same type of aftermath, the smoke and the ring, and same type of imagery, right? As he's beginning to transform, and that ball of light just expanding. There's really similar shots like that in this opening. So could that even be the depiction of a transformation, a Titan transformation? But the thing is, the only time they've shown me a Titan transformation like that is the Colossal Titan, right? So maybe is that the Colossal Titan transforming in those shots? And these shots are like really similar, right? They are the same thing essentially. And yeah, I'll put them up on screen. And most of these explosions, they don't show anything too specific. But if you'll remember, the first time I saw the opening, I noted that some of these shots actually felt like cities or specific locations, right? And again, I'll put those shots up on screen as I'm talking about them. Now, there's this really interesting raindrop scene, right? As the hand is kind of reaching out. You know, that reminded me of one of my favorite lines of dialogue from Blade Runner. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears and rain. And then, you know, the next shot is just absolute carnage, isn't it? All kinds of debris. You see dead bodies, you see faces, you know, dead faces, and you see hands reaching out. It really reminded me of some of that imagery from the season 3 finale end credits, season 3 episode 22, right? That really was depicting the horrors of war, wasn't it? Much like some of the imagery in this opening. So yeah, it really reminded me of that. And then it goes into, of course, that final shot of course, the most noticeable being the attack titan, Eren himself. He seems to be reaching out, right? So what's he reaching out to? Or towards, you know, that attack titan, is it reaching for freedom, as it does in every era it's found in? And then of course you see a few other titans in the background. You know, the armored titan is quite clear to notice, and clock, you see that. But then there's also one in the middle, in the back, that has a bit of a, it looks like a skeleton almost. And I believe the big one, the really big face, that surely that's got to be the colossal, right? And if you look around, you do see some shapes in there, you know, some shapes that could pass as a body of a titan and some that could pass as a face. So I'm not sure if this is meant to show all 9 of the titans, right? Or if it's only meant to show a few. But, you know, maybe there are a few other hidden things in there. Some shapes do kind of resemble bodies and faces. But, you know, that presentation itself, you know, they kind of look like a statue, right? A relic of the past almost, a fossil almost, you know, that maybe that these titans, you know, the Eldians are a relic of the past. I think that's about it, but actually I have to go back a bit. You know, I spoke of some of these shots looking quite specific, you know, these explosions. You know, you see a city that actually even looks similar to some of the structures in the season 2 end credits of the cities they depicted there, right? And also one of them, there's a shot there, and I think this actually looks like one of the walls, doesn't it? Again, I'll put it on the screen for you guys. Again, if you slow it down and if you start looking at some of these shapes, that looks like one of the walls, doesn't it? Now, you know, they also established that Fort Slava had some walls around it, right? But, you know, nothing like that happened at Fort Slava. You know, there seems to be an explosion going on, and then this wall gets decimated. So that is interesting. I thought that is quite interesting. And of course, you know, these cities being blown apart, you know, again, it looked like specific locations almost. Now then, moving on to the ending, you know, I have to say this is the best ending of the series for me, for sure. This is intoxicating. This is incredible. It never gets old. I can never get old of this ending. It is just so powerful, I think. So deeply affecting, actually. And every time it kicks in at the end of an episode, it's just, wow, it's just so incredible. And it was used to perfection in that last episode, right? As they're all going home after the festival, and, you know, it slowly kicks in, and then, incredible use of the ending score, and, you know, incorporating the ending into the story itself, into the episode itself. This is the best. I think this is easily the best ending song of the entire series. And my other 2 favorites have to be the season 2 end credits. Yes, those end credits are just unforgettable, and I really do need to go back to them and do a separate thing, kind of revisiting those and, you know, give my updated thoughts on that, because it appears that it appears there's different meanings to some of those shots after I've seen some of these things now. And one of the most prominent things that's kind of been reestablished as something else now is that shot of the Titans, right? The colossal Titans. It's depicting this stampede of colossal Titans, this rumbling Lord Tybur was going on about. They showed that in the season 2 end credits. So yeah, you know, I really need to go back to that. And the other one being, I think the other one has to be the season 3 part 1 ending, the one that has Historia in it, that prominently features Historia in it. I just love that one. Even the opening to that season was incredible. I just love that, the tone of that. Now, the two lines of dialogue that really stuck out to me. I mean, there's not much, there's not much dialogue in this, or lyrics in that case. The first one, won't someone please tell the world I was here? Like I said in my episode 1 reaction, right? This immediately reminded me of Bertolt's plea in season 2, episode 11, right? Charge. And then the other one, I will live on after my bones have turned to dust. Right, so the first time I heard that, I immediately connected that to, living on beyond the physical form or the physical realm. This concept has existed in the series, through different avenues, well, all of them, relating to Eldians, but, you have the concept of, getting memories of past holders of a specific Titan. So like, since Eren has the Attack Titan, he was able to see memories of, his own father, of Eren Kruger, the owl. Then, now you have Galliard, who said that he saw memories of this other girl, Ymir, right? Or he saw things through her memories back on Paradis. So again, that concept has existed. But then there's also something even more specific than that. This concept was kind of, or I explored this concept in season 3, part 1, that, again, this goes back to season 3, episode 10, Friends. In that episode, I really started exploring the concept of living on beyond the physical realm, right? Becoming one with some sort of entity. And I believe I even brought up the idea of some sort of ancestral realm, right? Or plane, actually, from Black Panther. So maybe even something like that, right? Now, the second time this lyric is sung is in unison with the reveal of this lady, right? And who I firmly believe to be the founder, Ymir herself. So yeah, I think the timing should be noted as well. There's quite the contrast between the opening and the ending. The opening is just all out. The opening is kind of depicting the immediate near future of the series, perhaps. The conflict, the wars, and the horrors of war. And the direction it's heading into. And it's certainly about to head into that direction, given the conclusion of episode 5, the declaration of war. Right, and of course the death and destruction that comes with war. And the whole concept of this is my last war, the final conflict, it's even more personal and applicable to people like Zeke, right? Zeke only has a year left on his term as Beast Titan. I'm saying it like he just gets to move on. No, he has 1 year left to live, right? So this is my last war. But I think the ending is focusing on something entirely different here. The one of the most standout shots of the ending is the founder Ymir, I think, and these paths that all subjects of Ymir are connected to, right? And of course, there's also that depiction of those neural links almost, that almost kind of look like the ones I saw in season 3, episode 6, as Eren's memories get triggered after being touched by Historia and Rod, right? And once again in season 3, episode 22, right, as Historia touches him, or he kisses Historia's hand. I felt that was the same thing being depicted here, right? Memories being unlocked or explored, perhaps. And then, of course, the unmissable shot of the founder herself. And then, this tree. It is a tree, essentially. The figure it kind of goes into. But then you see it branches out, right? The links. So yeah, the focus is on that aspect of this. And of course, Falco is prominently featured in this. So, that cannot be ignored. And I didn't ignore it, right? If you go back to my episode 1 discussion, yeah, I made quite a big deal about that, featuring Falco so prominently. But yeah, this aspect of it, I'm excited about this. Right now it doesn't seem like there's any possibility of that being explored, because right now they're exploring stuff that kind of links to the opening, the wars and conflict. But I hope at some point soon it starts going into, this aspect of it. And this was established as something quite major. I think it was first brought up in season 3, episode 21, right? The Attack Titan, the owl, Eren Yeager, Eren Kruger. God damn it. He brought up this concept of invisible paths that all subjects of Ymir are linked to, and then they brought up this idea of this alternative realm almost that Ymir found herself in once she transformed back into a human, for a moment in time at least, that she was transferred to that place, or she saw these invisible links, right, that most Eldians are not meant to be seeing. Again, if you would like my thoughts or my detailed thoughts about that aspect, do go back and check out my discussion for that episode. That was one of the more fun discussions, I'd say, because that episode really started introducing something new, a new concept. And I think that's about it for the ending. Again, as I stated, I have a more detailed take on that, the ending, in my episode 1 discussion. Right then, jumping back in for the outro. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like. It only takes a split second and you'll be helping the channel get noticed more. You'll help this get noticed more. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you do enjoy the content, consider dropping some comments. Give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access to the next episode right now, or maybe even full length to this episode, consider checking out the Patreon page. Again, it's just an option. If you're interested, check out the different listings there. Check out the plans for other anime in 2021. Full Metal Alchemist is the follow-up to Death Note. Brotherhood, that is. And consider checking out the pinned comment. It does have the link to the Patreon page. It has links to my social media. And if I need to update anything, I'll update the pinned comment. It's right at the top of the comment section. All right, so I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Take it easy.